Welcome back to the Hometown Huddle podcast. We're really excited for everybody this week. We're continuing, I don't know if we've kind of dubbed this the Legends series, but maybe that's our unofficial name. But we are here tonight with Maria Lefler. Maria was a standout basketball player on the Royal High School team who won the 1978 Girls State Championship. She went on to play at Eastern Washington University and is in the EWU Hall of Fame. And then also some stuff I did, found out as we were kind of researching, preparing for this, played some, in the article it said semi-professional, but we'd love to hear more about it, but basically professional basketball overseas in Australia and then Germany, if I think, if the articles had their stuff correct. So Maria, thanks so much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm really honored. This is so fun. I've been listening to your other uh, programs, and all of them have been so interesting. And some of them have been former students and former players, and it's just fun to just reminisce and keep history alive, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think this one is going to be great. I think you bring that up of you listening to your former students, but I think a lot of your former students are going to be really excited to hear some of kind of your stories about basketball especially, and kind of the effect. But I think before we even start, thanks so much for what you've done for our community and just the countless lives you've touched as a teacher. It really has made such a big difference. And even me, who I didn't even have you as a teacher, but you've always been so supportive of me and my family and everybody, even just from playing with your kids and stuff. So thank you so much. And thank you again for coming on with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what makes these so special, Maria. Is and same with other guests we've had, is just their contributions to the community beyond athletics, just the support. And you've had Corbin and Caleb in your class, and Chase helping you in your class. So this is really special. We're glad to do it.
Well, I love sports, but I also really love the Royal community. So there's a lot of parts of the community that I hold special in my heart. So yeah, I'm glad to be able to help out and tell my parts of my story.
Yep. Well, we're excited to get into it here. Let's kind of start at the beginning. So, from what I read, there was a Columbia Basin Herald article that had some good stuff, and this is from a few years back, but it said your family moved to Royal City, I think around the time you were in 7th or 8th grade. Is that right?
Yeah, so we lived in Idaho for 5 years. My family immigrated from the Netherlands when I was 8 years old. And we lived in Idaho for 5 years. And then my dad wanted to buy his own farm. So he bought that farm on 262 where my brother does the watermelon right now.
Yep.
We're on 262 there. And so I moved here to Royal in my 8th grade year, like in November, I think, maybe December. And so right before basketball season of 8th grade, and I'd never even played basketball, but yeah, I tried in 8th grade, but it was, when you're like 5'11" and very, very skinny and very uncoordinated. And middle school, Carter, you teach middle school,
Yep.
it's not easy. And then
Yeah.
moving to a new community and school, we didn't know anyone, like we had no family in
Yeah.
Royal City. So the community, like our church, was important to us. And of course, my parents, they worked really hard to do their best for us and everything. But I got right into sports because that's something that is kind of universal language,
Yeah.
And so, that was, I played basketball, but I was terrible. I mean, I'm not joking. So bad. And then came spring, I accidentally told my PE teacher, which was Barbara Strecker at the time, well, I ran around my house 10 times without stopping. She said, you did what? And so then right away, from then on, I ran long distance
Yeah.
in track. And I actually ran for Coach Nielsen as well. He was my track coach in high school as
Oh,
well.
wow.
And he was really tough on us.
Yeah.
But so running, yes, now everybody's stronger and quicker and faster and everything. But if you could run, that was a good, didn't take that much coordination, I have to say, long distance.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, kind of a way to get into to athletics a little bit. In those days back then, so you did track. Was cross country? Was that a thing back then?
Well, that's funny you asked that because the wrestling coach decided that he needed he was going to do cross country coaching so he could get all the wrestlers in there.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, okay, we got to open it up to girls, right? So myself and one other girl were on the cross country team with all the wrestlers.
Wow.
And basically, it was nothing like what it is now with Mr. Orth. He runs
Yeah.
an awesome program. But for that time, it was good. But he'd just say, okay, go run the Maher Hill, which was, okay, run 5 miles out and back or whatever. And
Yeah.
hopefully you come back.
Yeah. Hopefully we're
He
making it
never
back.
followed us. That was the thing.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were all they were getting ready for wrestling, and I was getting ready for basketball, basically, doing a sport. And volleyball was going on, but I didn't. I did 1 year of volleyball, and that was also not that great because coordination again.
Yeah. Yep. So you mentioned you'd never really played basketball before coming
No.
to Royal City. What kind of started you on your basketball journey?
So my freshman year, I was on the JV team, and we only had a JV and a varsity, and they had a pretty good team, and I got to play a lot. And for some reason, coaches or people they saw this tall girl, and they wanted to help her. Like it was almost like I was a project. So even the band teacher, who was an assistant coach at the time, he worked on my rebounding. He'd throw the ball up so many times, and I'd have to jump up there and get it. I mean, I just had a lot to learn. Catching the ball, I
Yeah.
mean, just everything. I didn't even understand the game hardly. So, my junior, no, sorry, my sophomore year, I was on the varsity, and I got better. I remember I actually scored some points.
Yeah.
And then junior year, sophomore to junior summer, back then we didn't have AU, and so if we got to go to a camp, that was a big deal. So I remember I begged my dad. Well, I'm pretty sure he was on board with it, but to go to a camp, and I think Mr. Bush had something to do with it, Bill Bush, because he used to go to Eastern. So I went to camp at Eastern, and that was like, Title IX was in 1972, so I'm talking, like 1976. So pretty close to that time period. And I remember it cost $110, and I had to come up with some money, I'm pretty sure my parents helped me, but back then you just worked on the farm. That was what you did in the summer. You didn't really get to go to camps, but I got to go, and I got most improved player, which was a big deal. And because it was really the only thing I could do was improve every time, get on the floor.
Yeah.
And then the next year, going from junior to senior, I think our whole team went to Cougar Cage Camp at WSU. And that was really awesome. And I was the tallest person at the whole camp because George Raveling, the coach, just lined us up from shortest to tallest. And it was like I was so self-conscious about being that tall. And then, I was the tallest and probably the skinniest there for that height. But anyway, ended up getting
How tall,
MVP of
Maria?
the All-Star game. So that's like kind of improved a lot from one year to the
Yeah,
next.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my junior year, we made it to district with Coach Bush.
Yeah.
And he So when he took over from Coach Strecker, we used to play at the old Red Rock in the concrete floor gym. Larry, I don't know if you knew about that.
Yep, I remember we played there in middle school or practiced there.
Okay, did you run down there? Because Rex says they ran down there, like
Oh
from the
man,
middle school. Yeah,
no, we never ran down there. We took
in
a
their
bus.
street clothes, and then sweating, and then they practiced, and then their parents picked them up after practice. That was what they did.
Ooh, yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember my coach Strecker would say, she goes, Maria, you really need to get more aggressive. And I go, I just didn't even know what that word meant. Uh, I mean, I knew what it meant, but I just didn't know how she was talking about it with basketball, you know?
Yeah.
And so I went home and looked it up. I literally looked it up, and I was trying to figure out, and I asked her. I don't think I asked her because I was too shy. Um, and anyway, I just had to get a lot tougher. And I realized you could be nice off the court and not so nice on the court.
Yep.
Uh, Carter, right?
Yeah. No, I hope that's. Hopefully, some people I've played and coached against can be like, "Oh no, he actually is. He's all right once he's not here."
Good guy, yeah. And anyway, I think I got a little tougher, but my big deal was rebounding. It really wasn't scoring. I mean, yes, I would like to score a lot of points, but that wasn't really the big thing. And defense and blocking shots. I love doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, Coach Bush worked with me a lot. And our junior year, let's see, we made it to district and we lost the championship. So we had to come back on a Saturday and play Bickleton, and we lost. We could have gone to state that year. And then that was kind of sad because we had a really good group of girls that year. And the next year, we started winning all these games. I don't even think we realized that we were very good, but
Really?
I
So
know.
going into that season, you didn't have real high expectations?
Well, no, we did well when we went to the Cougar Cage Camp and stuff, but
Yeah.
I think I know I've talked to my husband about this a lot, is that when we switched from Coach Strecker to Mr. Bush told the principal, this is how I got the story, that he would coach us if we could practice on the floor that we would play the games on, because we were practicing down in that old Red Rock cement gym and then coming and playing games on the real floor.
Yeah.
The boys were playing, they were practicing after school on the real floor.
Yep.
And so he said, how are we going to do this? And the principal came up with this schedule. He changed the schedule. We practiced from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.,
Wow.
which went into first period. And so he changed the whole school schedule.
Wow.
And then we would get out of practice at 9 o'clock, take a shower, and be in our second period class at 9:20.
Wow.
And, there's no, yeah.
That's actually not too bad of a deal. I bet there's a lot of kids now who wish they could do that, just have practice
Well,
one of
and
their
that
class periods.
actually, I really think because we got that uninterrupted time, 7 till about 8:30 when kids start coming, trying to get in the gym and stuff like that. But we got some really good practice time, although, some of us were pretty grumpy at that time in the morning.
Yeah.
But Mr. Bush came up with this crazy defense, which was the mousetrap, full court press, with me on the ball, and then we had Barb Hoeing and Sherry Smith, Winder Smith, and they were quick. They were so quick, and we trapped like, the tall girl trap and the quick girl trap. And then we had Teresa Mathis and Robbie Morton behind us, and I mean, we had more really good players too, but those were our starting five, and we just stole the ball repeatedly. It was like magic.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was fun.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. I think, as coaches, you try to figure out your combination of players and what your strengths are, and that was definitely something that helped us win a lot of games.
Yeah. So in those days, like what was competition like in as much as like the teams you played? So like for the league, who were your main rivals? Kind of what was the difference back then from then and to now?
Well, okay, no 3-point line.
Yeah.
So there were girls that could shoot the ball from out there, from Zilla,
Mm-hmm.
because that was our main. My senior year, we played them. You know how the boys played them, what, 4 times this
Yeah.
year?
Yep.
We played them 5 times. I
Wow.
had to fact check that with Mr. Bush because I said, I know we played them 5 times my senior year.
Uh-huh.
And we lost once to them by 1 point. So they were our big rivals, and they had a girl, Cheryl Holden, who could shoot from way out there, but 3-point line was not there. And then Granger was really good. And so those were our two teams that we really, I think we lost to Granger also when I was a senior. Um, so that was a big upset. And that coach, he's still around
Yeah.
the valley. And anyway, yeah, I'd seen him back and forth. But anyway,
It's
yeah,
not off
those
Holter,
were
is
our
it?
rivals mostly.
Yeah, there's kind of so Zilla and Granger. Do you feel I don't know, just strategy wise, did you feel like well, I mean back then maybe you wouldn't have known this because no 3-point line, but do you feel like not having a 3-point line was outside shooting as prevalent as it is today? Like how did that kind of change the game? And for you
Well,
being tall,
the other thing we did was the jump ball.
Oh
If
yeah.
you tied up the ball, which we tied it up a lot
Mm-hmm.
with some teams that weren't very good,
Yeah.
you'd be like jumping the ball right. Don't they do that in a WNBA?
I think
They
the
jump.
NBA and WNBA, yeah, they still do it.
Yeah, the jump ball. And that actually, you could have a play for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially if you've got a 6'2", 6'3"
Yeah.
Maria Lefler. How old are you, or how tall are you, Maria?
Well, I don't know. I think I'm 6'2", 6'2" and a
Yeah,
half or something. I don't know.
yeah.
Riley now is taller than me though, so
Wow.
he's
Really?
been waiting for that for a long time.
Yeah, this is a big
Yeah.
accomplishment for him.
Are any of the other boys taller than you?
Reed
Reed's
is,
got to be,
yeah,
Reed
yeah.
is?
and Ryan's like 6'1", I think.
Yeah.
No.
And my husband Rex is the shortest,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh man. Huh.
but it's okay. It's all
Yeah,
good.
that's all right. That's me in our family. I feel like it's not too bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
But
my
height
wife
isn't
laughs
everything,
at.
right?
That's right. Yeah, it's fine.
Correct.
It's good. But so your senior season, you said kind of expectations. You didn't maybe know how good you guys were. At what point did you feel like it could be maybe a championship season or a different season in that way? Was there a point in the season where you kind of realized that, or was it not until the end?
I'm telling you, I don't think we knew that till the end.
Yeah.
I don't. We actually went, so we won the district tournament. Then our state tournament was at Central.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just drove back and forth every day
Yeah.
and on the bus, and our big deal was somebody bought us pizza after the game,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just really a special time.
Mm-hmm.
The whole
Yeah.
town went just like they do now, but I mean, it just seemed really amazing. And I, I don't really think so. So we had to play Linden Christian. Haha, have you heard of them?
Yes. Unfortunately, we
Man.
have.
We played them for the championship game, and they had this girl, her name was Claire Bowman, and she was 6 foot tall, but she could jump out of the gym. And so it was going to be a battle, as far as like who's going to get the most rebounds and this and that. But it was such a low scoring game. I think it was 38-31, the final game.
Wow.
And we won, but it was magical, so wonderful. And we all rode home on the bus, and we stopped at Spud's, and the headlights were on this board over there, and we're like looking at the board, and there it said 1978 champions, single A
Yeah.
girls basketball. I mean,
They worked
somebody
fast.
had done that. I don't know who did it, but it
Yeah.
was really cool. How it was just such a awesome moment, just to all be together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A,
that
a
is.
big moment for
One
the
of, one of the other things that I was thinking is Mr. Bush, our coach, he had a way of calming us down a lot because, some of us, especially me, would get really nervous. And he drew caricatures. He could draw those
yeah.
funny pictures. Do you remember that, Larry?
Yes. Yep.
Of people, like the funny kind. And then he had nicknames for all of us too. Um, and he just made it really fun. And I think some other players would agree with that because that kind of calmed us down a lot. And,
Oh,
yeah.
that's anybody that knows Mr. Bush or went through high school with Mr. Bush would definitely relate to that 'cause
Yeah.
that's how he was. He was a fun guy. So who else coached with him? Who were assistant coaches?
Oh, well, Bonnie Brown was the assistant
Really?
coach.
Wow.
Yes. And she was the best dressed coach in the whole league. And
That's funny.
beautiful lady. And anyway, she was wonderful because she also had a different, it's just a combination of people and surrounding yourself with good people. And I
Yep.
just think it was a good combo. And our other players, we, they had to practice against us all the time. And they were really, it was fun group of ladies. But
Yeah.
we were practice and we would sometimes get into not fights, but we practiced hard. Like that's what I remember.
Intense.
It's
Yeah.
just intense. Yeah, it was like no joking around. And one of our players went on. So all five starters, got college. Went and played in college,
Yeah.
Wow.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, and Barb Hoeing went to Walla Walla, and then Sherry went to Coeur d'Alene, and Teresa went to Coeur d'Alene, and Robbie Morton, she went to WSU for skiing, downhill skiing. So
Oh
I never
wow.
Oh,
even realized that on Sunday she was going skiing. Like
Oh,
wow.
during
she
the
was
season.
at Michigan. She did,
Now that name sounds so familiar, Robbie Morton. I'm trying to
yes.
think.
Her sister was the gymnastic coach and PE teacher at the high school, and then there's Tracy Morton and Jimmy Morton, and although he passed away.
Okay, I
Um,
vaguely remember a Mrs. Morton that taught at a
yep,
school.
Kelly Morton. Yep.
Kelly, that's right, Kelly Morton. Okay. So
Yep.
that was her sister then.
Yeah, and she had bright red hair, and she was just, it was just a mix of players. Like I feel like we all kind of figured out our role and kind of,
Yeah.
it wasn't like we were ultra talented at all. I mean, I don't think we were. We just kind of knew what we had to do,
Yeah.
and we practiced that way. We practiced that press all the time.
Yeah. So you're
It
getting
was
you're
like
getting pretty
every day.
good shape practicing the press.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you mentioned that all five starters go on to play college athletics. What was the kind of recruiting process or the, kind of that transition back in those days going to play at college? Did you talked about, I think you mentioned an all-star game, like were there scouts coming to watch? Were, making it to
Oh
the state
no.
tournament? Is that a big, like how did you kind of get connected with Eastern or these other girls connected with their schools? How does that process work?
Well, I think they had a tryout at Eastern, and we
Uh-huh.
went. Three
Yeah.
of us, I think, went to that.
Mm-hmm.
So where coaches could come and look at you.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to go to WSU.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was it Dan Murphy that also wanted to go to WSU?
Yeah, I think he
Or I
mentioned that
thought,
he had thought about that or at least
Yeah.
transferring at
yeah,
some
thought
point.
about it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really wanted to do that, but then I went to Eastern because I'd been to that camp when I was,
Mm-hmm.
sophomore anyway, and they saw us there, and then the coach had been calling me, but he was mostly always talking about track. He was very, very interested that I was in track and not softball,
Mm-hmm.
um, because he wanted, I don't know, he thought I could run or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so he recruited, uh, not really hard. He just called me a couple times, and then it was like, okay, I think I could could go to Eastern. I think the other girls as well, there's coaches that called them, and like, Sherry was really good at softball, and I don't know if she played softball at Idaho too, but it was really a different time than now. We hadn't lifted any weights. We didn't really have not any AAU experience. And when you go in one of those tryouts, your boys know this, it's like everybody's good. Everybody was the best on their team, So sometimes I think it's the attitude that you bring to things too. I know it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, half the battle sometimes is that mental side. And so you did this tryout at Eastern. Did they offer you a spot pretty quickly on the team, or did it take longer? Kind of what was the process of getting there? And then once you're there, did you play early as a freshman? Could you even play? Because I know there's some places that as a freshman you have to wait. What was that like? As your kind of journey there at Eastern getting into basketball?
Well, so I pretty much knew I was going to be backup center to the 6'2" girl from Moses Lake. Her
Okay.
name was Becca Clark, and I pretty much knew that. But okay, so we go to practice. The first day of practice, she tells the coach, well, she's married also. She's gotten married, and then she tells coach, well, I have to quit because I'm going to have a baby.
No. Yep.
So guess who got to get in that
So
slot?
you're starting spot. Huh.
Yeah, so I slipped right into that spot, and then the two other freshmen, one was from Shadle Park, one from Central Valley in Spokane, they called us the trio, the freshman trio. And then we had, some players from the year before when they'd gone to nationals. And we were playing Division II basketball at the time.
Yeah.
And so we had a good team. And that year, I think we won 28 games.
Wow.
When I was a freshman, I got to play every single game.
Huh.
Probably 38 minutes a game out of 40, unless I fouled out. I mean, so lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like pretty lucky because just in the right place, the right time, maybe, I don't know. But we went to nationals and in North Dakota, and we lost both games. One of them was Tuskegee Institute, which at that time was all black college, and we were a little intimidated.
Yeah.
And then that was, I'm talking 1979. And then Pepperdine, we lost to them. So the next year, our school said, okay, you're going to play Division I, and you're going to have this more money, and you're going to have more. So the first year I got $618, $206 a quarter. So that was tuition at the time. So if you think about what tuition is now.
It's gone up a little bit since then. Yeah.
And then, and then they said, okay, well, this year you get room and board. Okay.
Nice.
So I was in the dorm, and so that was a big deal. They had to offer more money for women, and that was kind of a thing that was happening in sports. And that year, oh my gosh, we had this really amazing schedule because they said, okay, you're going to Alaska to play 2 games. You're going to Hawaii to play 2 games, and that's all in 1 week.
Whoa.
And so it was wonderful. And then we played like Oregon State. We're playing bigger schools.
Yeah.
And doing some things and flying places instead of on the van. And so anyway, let's see. That was my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was in January of my sophomore year. I was having a good year. And then I tore the ligament in my ankle and out for the rest of the season. So that was, being injured. Like I see some of the boys, like on football and basketball, and the girls, when they get injured, it's tough, like to watch your teammates play and to be there and to be positive. And that was a huge learning experience for me. Just trying to come back from an injury and sitting on the bench the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people underestimate sometimes how difficult that is. I definitely did until I'd been around. Caleb, when he was injured a little bit his freshman year, and then this last year, just a few different guys between, Ethan Ellis and just to show up
Yeah.
day in and day out, and there's no way you can play, you're hurt, and but how big of an effect that has on the rest of the team when somebody who's going through that is there to support. I think it makes a huge difference. But so difficult. I don't think people realize what that's quite like.
Well, and that's where, your mental strength comes in. I mean,
Yeah.
trying to be stronger. And I saw one of those football games, and I think it was Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
He got hurt, and then it was like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad for him
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
know he probably worked really hard. Guys work hard and
Yeah.
girls work hard. But anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many kids.
So that was toward the end of the season, was it, Maria?
You said
it was
January, it's
in
like
January.
mid-season.
So actually, we'd only played 15 games. So we had, I
Yeah, like right in the
missed
middle.
like,
Halfway.
oh, yeah, halfway. And they moved me to forward. So I was playing center at the time, but they moved me to forward. So I was starting to play with my, not with my back to the basket because we had a 6'4" girl and they were just playing her. And anyway, then my junior and senior year got back and, we did okay. So we started getting transfers in. You know how
No.
you're talking about
Yeah.
how the game's changing.
Mm-hmm.
So we got this girl from San Diego who was supposed to be really great, and somebody else, from different junior college. And I'd been there from when you're there from freshman. Now you played all the way through to senior,
Yeah.
but it's hard. It was a hard transition for some of those players to, you had to redshirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a
You had to
redshirt
sit out a year.
thing. Yeah, you couldn't just keep switching teams and stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot different back then. Even just different a few years ago. Just with that, especially that, I think that was kind of a big deterrent to a lot of transfers was having to sit out a year. Definitely makes it difficult.
yeah.
So by the time your senior year, what were some of your favorite memories of your time playing there at Eastern?
Let's see. Well, at Eastern, just the road trips were great. The girls, just getting to know people from different places. One of my one of my really good friends that was from Canada, and she ended up being my roommate. And just the relationships and the you know playing in Poly Pavilion
Mm-hmm.
at UCLA
Yeah.
against Denise Curry was like, wow.
Yeah, that is.
Of course, she
Huh.
scored like 30 points on me, but
Yeah.
hey,
But what an
we like
experience.
were there. We were
Yeah.
on that blue and yellowish anyway in
Yeah.
that place. And Weber
Wow.
State, I think it's Weber State, and their locker room was amazing, and the colors and it's beautiful, and just some of the traveling. I love the traveling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely some of the kind of the best moments there, those times you have with your teammates on the road and that kind of thing. So that's awesome to hear about. As your time wrapped up towards there at Eastern, I know you went on to play. You went and played basketball. Was it in Australia? Did I get that right? Australia and then Germany for a little bit.
Yeah, I played. So my coach from college got me hooked up to go play in Parramatta Wildcats, which is outside of Sydney, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I played a season there, and that was a club team. So it's a bunch of girls that just play games.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really practice. You're
Yeah.
supposed to practice on your own, and they play netball there.
Oh
We had
yeah.
a lot of netball players that could really pass the ball very well,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't that great of shooters because, you only have one shooter, I think, on a netball team.
Yeah. Yeah, Dad. Have
So yeah,
you ever seen netball? I
I
I
don't. I never have.
I'd never really heard of it, but so Joe Ingles was a guy that played for the Jazz from Australia. He's a pro basketball player, and then his wife was a professional netball player in Australia. So I was like, oh, let's see this. I don't understand it. It's really, but you do have the one shooter. There's no backboard, and it's really big there in Australia. But
and
I don't
passing, and
understand
you
it.
have to stay in your area.
Yeah.
So, you can't go all over the court. Yeah. But anyway, and it was just a different culture playing there. And I coached the littles, and
Yeah.
I coached different teams. That's usually was part of my job.
Yeah.
So why I say it's semi-pro, they paid for your room and board, and I got a jalopy, which is this car,
Yeah.
just it was a pink Holden, which is like a Chevy, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I drove it around all around Sydney, Australia, and
Huh.
yeah, had
That
a
is
great
awesome.
time there.
Huh.
That
And
is
I
such a
played
cool.
one season, and we went down to Hobart, which is in Tasmania, and we played there, and they said, "Hey, why don't you come back next year and you can play for Hobart?" And I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
I've
Like,
had enough.
that it's way down there.
yeah.
So I came back and went to school at UW
Yeah.
and got my teaching certificate at UW, University of Washington, which I don't even know if they have education program there anymore, but it's not really known for that. But and then I got done with that, and I decided, oh, my friend played in Germany, so I went and played 2 years in Germany.
Okay.
Wow.
Huh.
And was that similar? Was that club ball or what was that like?
That's called the Bundesliga, which is
Okay.
like the Zweite Bundesliga, which is the second league, and it's club ball as well. We had girls on our team that were 16 to about 32 years old,
Wow.
Mhm.
and the one girl, her name was Malice, and she ended up playing in the WNBA.
Wow.
So she was 16 and I was like, 26 or something at the
Huh.
time.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we traveled around. It was really fun. I enjoyed that a lot, but I had to learn German, and but most of them knew how to speak English, but they would always speak German, and then I'm like, okay. So I learned how to speak German.
Wow. And so
Wow.
you said you were born in the Netherlands and then moved to Idaho when you were around 8. Did you
Yep.
speak? Did you speak? Is it Dutch? Is that the? I
Yeah,
don't even know.
Dutch.
Okay. So is that what you spoke? Your early childhood years?
Yeah, we spoke that till we moved.
Yeah.
Well, we immigrated, and then my dad said when we moved to Idaho, he goes, "Well, we're gonna speak English because we're gonna live here. We're not gonna go back."
Uh huh.
So we spoke, I think, both languages. It was really hard to learn. The math actually was, we were ahead in that, but the language and just the humor part, of a
Yeah.
language, just like Spanish, I
Yeah.
think the humor's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So,
slang.
yeah, the
Just the
slang,
timing of
yep.
things, and yeah, no, definitely for sure. And then,
Yeah.
so how much of German and Dutch do you still speak? This is totally off of
Well,
sports, but just me, I loving languages and Spanish and stuff. This
I
is
love
just interesting for
language.
me.
So I actually can go and I can speak Dutch
Okay.
just like,
Yeah.
pretty well. If I start kind of getting warmed up, I don't
Yeah.
hear it every day, like, um, and German, could kind of do that. I actually learned German easier because I knew how to speak Dutch.
Yeah.
And so they're not really similar, but a little bit similar.
Yeah.
So when I go back to Holland, I can speak Dutch, but most of my cousins are speaking English. They learn English, French, German. They learn like 4 languages. That's
Yeah.
just normal.
Yeah.
That's why I think we should learn Spanish. I do think that.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of that for sure. Just having learned it from being in Argentina, and just like, oh man, you just learn so much more about your own native language when you learn another one. It's all these things that I should have paid more attention to when I was in school, of sentence structure and subject, object, and all those kind of things. I'm like, oh, I have to, when I'm learning Spanish, I have to know this. And so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a very valuable skill, and I'd love to learn some more languages, but that's kind of not here or there, at least for sports. But that's awesome. So after you were done, so you got your teaching certificate. You played in Germany. Did you always plan to come back to Royal, or was there just kind of an opportunity that came up? I mean, obviously family here. What was that process like of coming to teach and being back here?
Well, so when I got my teaching certificate, I was teaching did my student teaching in Seattle, Capitol Hill area. And after I did my student teaching, I was like, I don't think I want to go into teaching. This is no fun.
Yep.
It was hard. And so then I came back to Royal and did some subbing, and I really enjoyed that a lot. And then I, went to Germany, and then I subbed, and then I actually got a job when I came back, in Moses Lake, and I taught 2 years in Moses, sixth grade at North Elementary, and then I was coaching JV basketball at the high school.
Okay.
So then Mr. Bush was coaching the girls, and he was wanting me to come back to Royal, and then my husband got an opportunity to come back to Royal as well. We both did, and so we were excited to move out of Moses Lake
Yeah.
because we're not used to living in the city, and even though Moses Lake's not a big city, but
Yeah, that's my in-laws
Yep.
laugh at me from saying that. My wife still does of like, oh yeah, you guys are the city people from Moses Lake. They're like, what? Moses Lake?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like you guys will come down to Royal, and it's like we've never even seen a stoplight, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So we'll kind of talk about your family a little bit. So your husband Rex, you guys, I think are a couple years apart in school. In the article I read,
Yeah.
you'd mentioned that you guys probably never even really talked to each other in school. How did you guys kind of get reconnected and your romance start? Would love to hear that story.
So yes, you're right. There's no way I would have talked to him in high school. Yes, absolutely not. He was, he was a little scary to me. I was super shy. So anyway, but he worked in the Middle East for several years. I don't know if you knew that, but
Yeah, Reed had mentioned that to me back in high school.
yeah, and so in Saudi Arabia. And then he came home one of the times, and he was at the bank, and I was subbing, and I was at the bank. And so we just met up at the bank. I mean, we didn't plan that. And we ended up talking for a long time because we both like to travel. We just love traveling. And he traveled a lot because when he was in Saudi, then he would go to Thailand and all kinds of places, Africa. And I was on my first year of Germany, so I was going back to Germany. So we started dating then, kind of. And then we wrote letters back and forth while I was in Germany. And then he went back to Jordan for a few months and came back to Royal. And anyway, yeah, when I came back from Germany, then we started dating and we got married after my first year at Moses Lake, teaching in Moses Lake. So in '89. So we've been married almost 36 years. Yeah.
Wow. Huh. And
Yeah.
then and then so the
And
opportunity. Oh, go
That's
ahead.
a neat story.
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
Yeah, that
meeting at the
is.
bank and it was,
That's way cool.
between Saudi Arabia and Germany.
Yeah, the traveling. I didn't know you two were such world travelers. I mean, I knew a little of that.
Well, we always are looking to travel more, and that's why we're retired now, so we can do some of that. But yes, we had that early on that we really like traveling. But once you have kids and like
Yep.
I was really involved in a lot of things at school, and Rex was, I think he was. We were in Scouts, Booster Club, all the
Yeah.
stuff,
Everything. Yes.
Yep.
all the stuff you do, which is the most wonderful thing for living in a small town. And I
Yeah.
just really think that hopefully people take advantage of that because I really think that just builds your character in many different directions.
Yes.
Just going out there and just doing different things, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. that's something we definitely take for granted at times in a small town, is just the opportunity to be involved in so many things. I definitely, complain. I'm like, oh, I have to do this and this and this. And it's like, you know what, if I was in a bigger place, I wouldn't be able to, coach football and
Yeah.
golf and be involved in all these things. And so
No.
I love we got to be grateful and enjoy those opportunities while they're here. So I love that part of being in a small town too. Deb, are you going to say something? I don't know if I interrupted you here.
Well, no, I was just gonna say that I think as a person, I think, it builds character, like I said, and you got to overcome maybe a fear of doing something you're not good at,
Mm-hmm.
and not fear not having just being afraid to fail,
Yeah.
because I feel like I feel like being a lifelong learner is a really big deal. That's kind of why one of the reasons I went back into teaching, or went into teaching, um, was I just loved working with kids. I used to work at the Boys and Girls Club, and I loved working with the kids, but that was always after school.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing them learn, and as an adult learning, and yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. So, kind of going off of that, so you guys had the opportunity to move back to Royal. What was
Yeah.
your journey, kind of teaching and coaching? Tell us a little bit about that, because you did your obviously a lot of teaching and your fair share of coaching, probably more than your fair share, kind of a pretty heavy coaching load from what we've heard of from Farah, that we've heard some stories. But we'd love to hear your side. What was that like, getting into the teaching and the coaching world in Royal? Because you'd done some in Moses Lake.
Yeah, I did. So when it came to Royal, then I was coaching and teaching sixth grade at the middle school, and I inherited a team from Mr. Bush that was like ready to go to the playoffs. It was Nikki Kallenberger year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nikki and Andrea, they both end up going to Big Bend to play, but we had a really good team that year. Um, and so I coached that year, and then the next year we went into the B League. Well,
Yeah.
no, wait, sorry. The year after that, I had Ryan, like,
Yeah.
okay, going into district playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Oh,
wow.
I
wow.
My water broke, and yeah.
Wow.
So I told Mr. Bush he had to take over
Yeah.
at district playoffs, and anyway, we didn't get out of district that year either. But yeah, I was pregnant, like coaching,
Yeah.
like
Did
I
you did you feel like
kind
you
of
could use
crazy.
that to your advantage? I don't know if you could probably argue with the refs. I don't know how many refs are going to tee up an 8-9 month pregnant coach. I think
I
they
think they
might.
felt sorry for me, maybe, but the girls were afraid that they were gonna hurt me, and
Yeah.
I kept, that was still back when I was trying to like show them how to be tough,
Uh-huh.
and I would like be in there, because you could still use elbows back then. Now,
Yeah.
now you can't.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
You're battling.
yeah, and so Farrah always says, he goes, I just didn't want to hurt you or whatever. And I was like, oh no. And so then by the time Reed was born, he was born in October, I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to school and teach in January. I could coach another,
Mm-hmm.
with Reed as a baby. So I'd bring him to
Yeah.
practice. And Rex,
Wow.
during the winter, he wasn't as busy, and he had to do a lot of Mr. Mom stuff. He's really good at that.
Yeah.
And so that we kind of worked together on that. But after Reed, that second year, then I actually think I started and stopped 3 times coaching high school basketball, because it
Yeah.
just was pretty difficult,
Mm-hmm.
being a mom and trying to do those things and then teach. And
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that
I
is.
decided I should do little dribblers,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
gosh, everybody needs to play.
Yeah.
And yeah, did that for a long time. I
Yeah.
did that.
Huh. That's cool. I'll tell you, I'm not surprised. Reed, he seemed kind of like he was born and raised on the basketball court. But I'll share kind of my experience. I might get emotional sharing this. But so we moved to Arroyo before my sophomore year of high school. And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I ever did, I mean, and we visited Royal, but it was basically my dad had been here for a while, and I came, and it was get on the bus, you're going to football camp. And I didn't know anybody. School hadn't started. I didn't go to spring football because we had just barely moved. And Wiley was like, your roommate, it's this guy right here. See this tall guy? It's Reed Lefler. And I'm like, okay. And man, I remember he was so sick. Like he was sick going into camp, but just took me under his wing and was nice as can be to me and helped me learn that we were playing similar positions. And yeah, I just made my transition from moving to a new place like it was nothing. Just made me feel at home immediately.
That's
and just
good
what
to
a credit
hear.
to you guys as parents. I feel like and
Yes.
you know, I don't know Ryan well, but Reed and Riley, just two of my favorite people I've ever, you know, had the opportunity to play sports with, be in school with, still just kind of seeing their things. I catch up with Reed maybe every couple of years. He's you know, he's quite the world traveler also, and man, just like
he's they're doing okay. You know, I think they're doing well. They're doing their thing.
yeah.
And so that's fun. But I'm glad that you had a good experience because that is kind of scary
Yeah.
when you come, even though, you know people, but just that age too, high
Yeah.
school and stuff. So,
Yep,
yeah.
but I think a big credit
It's
to you
funny.
guys. Oh, go ahead,
It's
Dad.
funny, just funny the little interactions. You know, I'd completely forgotten. Now that Carter says that story, I remember that. But you know, to me, and Katie said we need to bring this up because you know we may have to rekindle the battle here, Maria.
Oh,
But
no.
you being a Gonzaga fan and us being BYU fans, and it's March Madness upon us here.
I
We've
know.
had
And
some we've had some good banter in the past, and won and lost a few bets. You know, of course, was just cookies, but still, you
hey,
know,
cookies,
it's
anytime,
good
anytime.
times.
Yeah. Yep. And it's too bad now that BYU and Gonzaga, you know, had all those years in the same conference and now have kind of split up. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll see some a rematch
In the
here
tournament.
sometime soon. Get the
Well,
bets going
we
again.
watched, I watched all the boys' games at state, on the NFHS thing, which
Yep.
was fun. But we still watch Gonzaga, but they play right here, in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
But we've
Yeah.
never gone to watch them
Yeah.
play in Vegas because we always say, dang, this is a better seat right here at the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I feel that way sometimes too. Huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, let's see. I'm kind of looking through my outline here. It's kind of, we never super great here at the end. We're like, okay, we talked about all this stuff. And
yeah, it
I
always seems like our closings
yeah.
just kind
And then
of
afterwards, I feel like
abruptly.
the next day we're like, what? We should ask this and all these different things.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I was thinking because I've had Caleb and then I had Corbin in my class, and I just remember Corbin always doing jump shots like
Oh yeah.
all the
Yeah,
time.
just on
Hey,
air.
Corbin, like waiting in line, he's doing jump shots over there. And
Yeah.
I
Yep.
had Chase Chase, I didn't have him in class, but he came into my class and it was wonderful. And he taught my kids how to draw designs on shoes and, really good with the kids. And that's what I just love about teaching is trying to bring in different people and trying to expose kids to different, people that have
Yeah.
other talents. And it's just fun that way. And I miss that about teaching for sure. But yeah, love teaching at Royal. Love doing all the community things. My husband and I, we just enjoyed that a lot. So, but we're in that other time of life now, retirement time.
Yep. Yep. Now on to working on your golf game.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
oh yeah,
And your line dancing. I got to
oh
get that
yeah.
in there.
Forgot about that. Oh my God! And we have a wedding this year. Oh my
Yeah,
God!
that is so exciting.
Yeah, Reed's getting married in South Carolina, so we're pretty
Wow.
excited.
Wow.
Yes. So when's that happening?
October,
October. Nice.
and we're all going to South Carolina.
That's
Never
so
been there.
exciting. Yeah. Huh. That's
That
gonna
is
be so
neat.
From
cool.
there, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. She's from there. And did they meet in Alaska? Is that where?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they
Yeah.
met they're in Alaska, but
Yeah. That's what I thought.
their
Okay.
family lives in South Carolina.
That is
Yep.
cool. I need to text Reed, and I saw him at the reunion a couple. It's like I said, I'm like, man, I need to do a better job of keeping up with everybody. But you get older and you
It's
have your
hard when
families.
you
It
have a
is.
little one too, Carter.
Yeah.
So, it's fun that
Yeah.
that part of your life is fun. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
But
fun
man.
when talking like this and just the little memories it brings back, and you kind of rekindle those feelings and thoughts of good friends from past. So
Well,
yeah, it
and
was
your
neat.
wife, Katie, she's always up for creative ideas of something, so that's always fun too. We've had a
Yes,
lot of good times that
definitely.
way.
Yes, we definitely have. Well, we will wrap up here. But Maria, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story. We again, we just appreciate your contributions to, I mean, our lives obviously, but just the so many people that you've your lives that you've touched and your family through your coaching and your teaching efforts. So thank you again so much.
Well,
And
thank you for asking me, because I I feel like, okay, now I'm 64. This should be over now. you know, uh, and my mom would say that, she would.
yeah,
Goes, Maria, what are you doing? But I feel like we have just really had a great time in Royal, and I like to come back and watch the girls play, and watch Fair Coach,
yeah,
and watch the boys
Yeah,
play, and then I'll probably see you, Carter, on the golf course,
yep,
because I'm trying to get better at that.
yeah.
But yeah, we've been doing that, and a lot of pickleball.
Yeah,
Pickleball is good too.
that's a fun
yeah.
one. Yeah,
Lots of good times ahead. Thank you,
yep,
Maria.
Okay, well,
Corbin
have
and
a good spring,
Corbin
and
and
I will talk
Caleb.
to you in the summer.
Yeah,
yeah,
Corbin and Caleb both want us to say hello. They're
yeah,
Oh,
they've popped
how
on
hi,
but haven't said anything.
Caleb
But
yeah. They stopped in to
and Corbin.
listen, but
Yep.
yeah,
okay,
Thank you for listening in. Oh,
yep,
wonderful.
and tell Rex hello. We're grateful for his contribution too.
yep, for
Okay.
sure.
Thank you, Larry. Yep. All right.
Okay,
Take care.
you too.
Bye.
Bye. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. We really appreciate it. As always, we don't have another episode planned for next week, but we will probably get something cool. As usual, my dad will. He's the official producer. He lines up the interviews.
I got to be good for something.
Yeah.
I'll get something for next week.
Yeah, it'll be great. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you do get the chance, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. Leave a like, give a review. It kind of helps push things out there. And share with your friends. We hope that this is a kind of a good way for people to be able to hear some of the history of our town, for those that have that close. But for anybody who lives in a small town or anything like that, hopefully it's been interesting and for you. If you do have our phone numbers or have a way to get in contact with us, and you have an idea for an episode or somebody that would be great for us to interview or something for us to talk about, we would love to hear those. So leave a comment, leave things like that. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm trying to sound cool at the end of this, but I'm not. So
No, you
anyways,
sound pretty good.
okay. Thank you, everybody. We will see you guys next week.